Let us start the session by chanting Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. All right, let us turn to page number 169, please. Paragraph 15. Okay. Therein, immediately after a javana accompanied by joy, absorption accompanied by joy may be expected, right? May be expected. Immediately after javana accompanied by equanimity, absorption accompanied by equanimity, right? Absorption accompanied by equanimity. There is a reason and purpose why the language in the paragraph is compiled in this manner, right? Let's look at that paragraph again. Therein, immediately after javana accompanied by joy, absorption accompanied by joy may be expected. Immediately after a javana accompanied by equanimity, absorption accompanied by equanimity. Absorption occurs accompanied by equanimity, right? Now, what do you understand from this paragraph or the way that it is written? Any ideas? It's very subtle, but it's also important. To those of you who have just joined, I'm asking, we are in page 169, paragraph 15. So just for the benefit of the people who have just joined, therein, immediately after javana accompanied by joy, absorption accompanied by joy may be expected. Immediately after javana accompanied by equanimity, absorption occurs accompanied by equanimity. Now, what can you tell me about this paragraph? There is an essential part within this paragraph, or the way that the paragraph is written, which sort of symbolifies or rather hints at how a jhana arises. Who can spot it? Who can spot it? Who is able to guess, or who is able to sort of understand? Let's go to the other paragraph as well. Therein, too, immediately after wholesome javana, absorption occurs through a wholesome javana and the three lower fruits. The three lower fruits are stream enterer, once returner, and non-returner, right? Once returner and non-returner. And you should understand why they have mentioned only the three lower fruits by now, which is why, because it's wholesome, right? If it is arahanthood, it should be functional, which is going to come next. Immediately after a functional javana, which is only possible because you have attained, absorption occurs through a functional javana and the fruit of arahantship. Now, any ideas about the way that is written? What do you think? Yes, Devika.
You go with the joy and then equanimity, absorption, because it's as a stream enterer.
No, this is not really talking about the important fact within this. Actually, the specialty within this. Now we are in the process, or we are learning about appana, right? We're learning about appana. So the important part about this is actually referring to absorptions, isn't it? So then there is something within this paragraph which hints at how an absorption arises, right? What is that? Yes, Mala.
I'll have a guess. Yeah, Bhante. I
Yes.
think joy follows joy, equanimity follows equanimity. Is that it?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, yes, but not the point.
Okay.
No, it's joyous, but since you're
Nothing to do with the feeling, really.
nothing. Oh, I see.
Nothing to do with the feeling. Any guesses?
Bhante,
Yes, Chamari.
could it be that a javana accompanied by joy, when it comes to the absorption, it may be with joy, it may be with equanimity, depending on the jhana factors.
Okay, you're coming close to it.
So I was feeling now when you read, when I was reading it again,
Okay.
when I was reading,
This is not a row of tactic took, okay?
no, sorry. When I was reading it again, it says this joy comes immediately after a javana accompanied by equanimity. Absorption occurs because you're getting somewhere. That's when the joy happens. When I read it again.
No.
Immediately after a javana accompanied by joy.
No.
Absorption accompanied by joy may be expected. But without that, the equanimity comes in.
No, that is no, that's not the main point here. The main point is, right, let's look at the paragraph.
Okay.
Therein, immediately after a javana accompanied by joy, absorption accompanied by joy may be expected. Right? Now the point is may be expected, right? And going on, immediately after javana accompanied by equanimity, absorption within bracket occurs, right? Accompanied by equanimity. It is actually these two words, right? The occurs, which is there, right? Which is hinting at that, and also the may be expected, right? Here, what it is saying is, how does a jhana arise? How does a jhana arise? Now, nothing to do with feeling, nothing to do with equanimity. Jhana arises by the power of determination. Right? Jhana arises by the power of determination. Now, that is the significance here. Right? Jhana will not arise however much your hindrances might be low, right? Jhana will not arise if that determination is not there. For example, a person who does not want to attain to the first jhana will not attain the first jhana. A person who has the first jhana, has the second jhana, has the third jhana, right? So what I'm insinuating at is that much profoundly developed, right? However, does not want to achieve the fourth jhana, the fourth jhana will not arise within him, although the hindrances might be suppressed to a level where that person is even capable of attaining the fifth jhana. Right? That person is even able to attain the fifth jhana. Do you understand? Right? Meaning the power of determination in the practice. That is what it is hinting at. Right? The power of determination. Remember, we spoke about this similarly, in a similar case, we spoke about this with regard to powers. Right? And we brush through the practice where one attains a jhana, comes out of the jhana, determines for that specific power to arise, goes into the jhana again, comes out of the jhana, the power rises. Right? So how did the Buddha's mind with the tikkapanya, the Buddha's mind with the tikkapanya, or the keen intellect, was able to, that is why the twin miracle is only possible for a Buddha, because he is able to attain to the jhana that quick. How does that process happen? Goes into the jhana, comes out of the jhana, determines for water, goes back into the jhana, comes out of the jhana, water appears or water rises. Then again, that much fast. So just imagine how much the Buddha, or how fast the Buddha was able to advert and come out, advert again with determination, right? This hints at the power of determination. So when one is meditating, now how is this practical for us, right? When one is meditating, the power of determination does not, or is not a process or a part of that moment whilst in meditation, but the purpose that drives the meditation, right? What is a purpose that drives the meditation? So aimlessly meditating is not something that the Buddha has spoken about. Rather, the Buddha has given us a flare of Nibbana, right? So the agenda of the meditation forced to be the Nibbana, right? Forced to be the Nibbana. That becomes the driving force and power. When we go deeper into it, what then do we go into? We go into the jhanas, or we go into the vipassana jhanas, where now we have a systematic process, a method that we follow, right? Where we instantly know what we have to go into, right? What we have to go into in each of those specific parts of meditation. Then we have a driving force behind us as well. That is that power of determination that is spoken about, right? That is the power of determination that is spoken about. But remember, that power of determination has to be followed by samadhi, right? The power of determination has to be followed by samadhi, or else the power of determination does not work, right? That is why even when we are doing, for example, some sort of chanting, right? We have always been taught to chant with mindfulness, with this attention, to listen to the chanting, right? When we are receiving blessings, Buddhists have always been brought up within the culture of having your hands together, closing your eyes, and listening and focusing upon the blessing which is given. Why is that? That aspect of samadhi, right? In the Tipitaka, when we read about the bhikkhus who listen to Dhamma from the Buddha, pin drop silence, why? Everyone is meditating, right? That determination is always fueled. Then what becomes the determination? The determination becomes understanding Dhamma, attaining of Nibbana made allowable through this knowledge that we are gaining from the Buddha, right? That is that power of determination, right? That is that power of determination. So this sentence, that is why it's important, where it is now saying how is it saying the jhana, after the jhana goes through this process, the consciousness which allows for jhana occurs or arises. It arises wholly because there is a determination which backs up that process to go into the jhana after the jhana, not because of anything else, right? So if it was anything else, then the question should be, or you should be now understanding to think, okay, then if it is wholly because of the hindrances that I am attaining the jhana, right? Then because at that point where my hindrances are suppressed, I should be in jhana all the time, which doesn't happen. Your hindrances are, however, suppressed, but the jhana arises through determination, through adverting, right? Through you telling yourself or guiding your mind in a way that you want to now advert to that specific attainment, right? Any questions? No?
Yes, Bhante. I'm now a bit confused because the first bit of Javana accompanied by joy, then the absorption accompanied by joy may be expected, but then the second sentence is about equanimity where it says occurs.
Yeah.
It's not, there isn't a may there.
Yeah.
So what's the significance between these two?
Yes. So in this here, it may occur. Let's go into the Pali, right? The Pali which is right. Tatapi, in the Pali, in the above paragraph, right? Pati kanti tapha, right? Meaning it will or it may, that influence, right? Remember that this, in both senses, this paragraph shares also, it shares the same will there, right? So although now in the absorption here, in the absorption, when we go into the Pali, this patikankitabha applies to both parts of arising, right? Applies to both parts of its arising. So here, this occurs, which is mentioned within brackets, this signals at the same thing, right? At the same thing. However, we have the maybe expected there because it is that specific word is found in that shared paragraph there, right? Now in Pali, we don't have full stops, right?
Yeah.
In Pali, we don't have full stop. So here in this, when that case, this tabba is there, it refers to that whole sort of case that is then mentioned therein, right? So really, it is talking about something that will arise, right? Something that will arise as a result of, right? Something that will arise as a result of. So here, the javana is not the only or the main reason that we take there. That is speaking of a process which allows for it, right? And we know it is during this javana time that the karma leading to that specific phenomena to arise is sort of made during that javana process, right? However, that part, it may symbolize that that is not the only thing, right? That it is the determination which has made it special or made it special to that specific attainment that allows that specific jhana to arise, that specific jhana absorption to arise.
So there's something about the determination that
there is,
without which you won't actually get into the absorption.
You will not stumble upon jhana.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Jhana is this. Now, when we take samadhi, again, going back to the classical definition of samadhi, the mind's ability to maintain itself upon one object while there are many objects, right? Remember that advertence that happens, that one-pointedness that happens, which allows for samadhi to be experienced. That one-pointedness is something that we train the mind to be within. It is not something which happens almost sort of, it's not something that you just come into. How do we then train it? Mindfulness over the breath, mindfulness over one or many of the 40 meditation subjects, right? The Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. In all of these aspects, we have this sort of developing of one-pointedness towards an object, right? It is as a result of that nurture, or rather that nurturing, that it allows us to be aware of this and maintain our minds within that specific object, right? There is a determination aspect in that as well. What is then the determination there? The determination to be focused upon that specific object, right? But however much one might be disciplined in ekagata does not ensure that one will go into jhana.
Yeah. Okay.
Or else it's going to be you're working in vipassana, all of a sudden you find yourself in jhana. That's not going to happen. That's somewhat like the potholes on UK roads, you see.
Thank you, Bhante.
Right? It is through that determination that you will specifically be able to go that deep into an object, without which it is not going to be possible.
Thank you.
Right, Namari?
Yes, thanks.
Bhante, can I ask something
Yes,
from
yes,
Chamari? What you've explained to Chamari, we can understand very clearly. It's not just because it's a determination. But what the question I thought she asked, which for me is still not clear, is why is it when it's accompanied by joy that you explained that in the Pali it's one paragraph and this is two, and therefore the words may be not very important.
Not maybe, the words will.
Yeah, so then Bhante,
it's not a tactic to scenario. What do you mean like maybe?
So then why, Bhante? Why is it may be expected in that, and that it occurs in that? Because after the determination that will definitely go, not just because the hindrances. So I still can't understand why when there's joy it may be, because whether it's joy or whether it's equanimity, if there is determination, then it should occur. And if there is no determination, even if the hindrances, it shouldn't occur. So I can't still understand, Bhante. Sorry, Bhante.
Okay, we are going to go into it. Okay, let's evaluate that down, right? Okay, therein, two, immediately after a wholesome javana, absorption occurs through a wholesome javana and 3 low fruits. We know that. How does that happen? The wholesome javanas are fueled by, we are going to go into it actually. So the 3 low fruits are referring to stream entry, once returner and non-returner, right? And then we have immediately after a functional javana, absorption occurs through functional javana and the fruit of arhanship. That is also clear, right? If it is a functional javana that is going to arise, right, then of course the person who is experiencing it has already experienced the fruit of arhanship, right? Kriya chitta, through the kriya chitta. Right? That is why the kriya chitta is able to arise, the functional chitta is able to arise. Guide to para 15. The purpose of this passage is to establish the correlations between preliminary chittas of cognitive process issuing in absorption and the absorption chittas themselves. The verses to follow will provide the detailed application of the general principles stated in the present passage. Following wholesome consciousness accompanied by joy. Following wholesome consciousness accompanied by joy. 32 classes of absorption jhavanas arise. Right? Can we calculate the 32? Can someone calculate the 32?
Can I have a go, Bhante?
Of course you can, Noeline.
If you take fine material first, that's 4 there.
Okay.
Right? Immaterial, there's nothing. Right? And then coming on to fruit, path and fruit, 16 and 12 for the fruit.
Yeah.
So that's 32.
That's 32. Correct. Is that understood by everyone? The way she calculated. Noeline, can you do it again, please?
Fine material 4.
Fine material 4. That is clear.
Material, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And supramundane, 4 times 4 is 16.
4 times 4.
And
Can you explain why it's 4 times 4, please? Just for the ones who can't get it.
so one Sakudagami, Anagami, Arahat.
Yeah, okay.
And then on the other side, of fruit, it's 12 because you don't take arahants there.
Okay.
So 16, 12, and 4.
Correct. Correct. I hope everyone got that. Yeah. Mala, why are you smiling?
Yeah, we were going through it the other day, Bhante.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good. Right. Okay. That is in the case of where are we? Okay. Right.
In 170.
32 classes of absorption javanas, right? Classes of absorption javanas. Is anyone confused as to why the word javana is being used here? I guess no one is confused then why the word javana is being used here.
Javana comes in absorption.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Arise. After wholesome.
Bhante, can I pause for a minute?
Yes.
Now, just to make sure that we understand that we use the javana, it's a common name for all the intermediate stages, but like parikarma and whatever.
Parikama upachara.
Upachara, yeah. So that's a common. Javana is here used as a common name for all these stages. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then
And also remember, Javana is used as a common thing, and also remember that in the Chittaviti, yes. So in the Chittaviti, it is used as Parikama. So yes. So it is Javana, which is used as a, and also when we understand the purpose and what happens during Parikama Upachara, Anuloma and Gotrabhu, change of image, all of this, it is quite much like that same sort of karmic, right, molding, or rather that experience that is happening in these stages. Right. That is why we are specifically referring to it as an absorption javana, because it is through it, or it is through the experiencing of these aspects that we are able to really experience or give rise to a jhana. Right?
Yeah.
Give rise to a jhana.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
you. Right. Okay. Right. After accompanied by equanimity, after wholesome consciousness accompanied by equanimity, 12 classes of absorption chittas arise. Right? Can someone do that one, please? How is it 12? Yes, Mala, yes, you can do it. Yeah.
Equanimity. In the fine material, you can take only the last one in the wholesome group. That's one there. And in the immaterial, 4 wholesome.
Correct.
Then supramundane. From the 5th jhana of the fine material, you can take the first 4, Sovan, Sakudagami, Anagami, Arahat. Then in the fruits, you take only 3. So 1, 4, 4, 3, you get 12 there.
Correct. And why? Because it's accompanied by equanimity. Right? Because it's accompanied by equanimity, remember. Right? And when you see the word equanimity, the calculation is quite easy, because then it has to be what? It has to be one of the jhana factors which have equanimity, which means either it's 4 plus anything 4 and above. right? Anything 4 and above. And remember that I've also mentioned in the class, you might have forgotten, there is a school of thought which says that the 4 Arupavatara jhanas are actually the 5th jhana, right? That it is only stages of attainment of the 5th jhana itself, right? So there's a school of thought which says that as well. But for the sake of better, clearer understanding, we learn it in this manner and pattern so that we understand where those numbers or where it comes from. Understood? Got it? Yeah, all right. So, okay. Moving on, right? 12, after functionals, after functionals accompanied by joy, 8 classes arise, right? After functionals accompanied by joy, 8 classes arise. Can someone say how that arises?
Can I have a go again or not?
No.
Try to be greedy.
Yeah. Someone else? Dale, would you like to give it a go? You have to unmute your mic, Dale.
Okay. So there'll be 1 in the fine material.
Okay.
Right. And then there is no, sorry, that no, fine material is 1, yes. And then in the immaterials there'll be 4.
Okay.
Right. And then in the path 1 again there will be 4. And in the part 1 there is non-dual arahant. In the part 1, that how many have they said here? For those free from the absorption, we are counting the 6 classes, is it? After functionals accompanied by joy, we are looking at the ones accompanied by equanimity, isn't it? Is that what we are calculating, Bhante?
No,
Yeah.
we are calculating the functionals,
yeah.
after functionals accompanied by joy.
The functionals accompanied by
joy.
So then 1, 2, in the fine material we have got joy, we've got 1, 2, 3 Bhante there. 2, 3, 4. Fine material.
So you have to look at 2 parts.
Yes.
First of all, the person experiencing should be an arahant.
Yes. So that's a functional one. The kriya ones.
Experience,
yes.
But also has joy in them.
So so there are 4 there.
Okay. 4 where?
In the fine material.
Okay. Okay. And?
There's nothing in the immaterial.
Yeah.
And when you take the part 1, the arhanships, because they are in the part 1 there is 4 there, but there won't be any in the fruition ones.
Yes. So you have to, so it will be all the jhanas within that scope of joy, right? That you can experience within that scope of joy, that you can also experience arahanthood, right? So, right. So 4 plus 4 equals 8 there, right? Then moving on. And after functionals accompanied by equanimity, 6 classes arise. 6 classes arise. Who can do that? Miri?
So that one, Bhante, it will be...
Oops, sorry. Miri, can you unmute yourself again, please? All right. Yes, Miri, go on.
Yeah. So, so in the fine material, so it will be, since it's accompanied by equanimity, it will only be 1 there. And then there will be in the path, there will be, again, it will be only 2 there. And sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in the fruit, it will be 2 there. So 2, 2, 2, 6.
2, 2, 2. How did you get that again, Miri?
So because it has to be accompanied only by equanimity.
Yeah.
So it will be the 5th jhana state, isn't it? It won't be, it can't be, it is without the initial application. It won't have all the first 4 of the jhana factors. So it will just have in the fine material functional sphere ones, out of the 5, it will only be the last one. Last 2 rather, sorry. Last 2.
Miri, I think there's a little bit of confusion. First of all, it has to be functionals, right?
Yes, so
then
functionals,
it has to be
yeah.
equanimity, right? So functionals and equanimity, that is, that we have 1 in the rupa,
Yeah.
5 in the 4 in the
4 in the immaterial, sorry.
In the immaterial, and then
Yes.
we have now arhanship, no? Right? Arhanship, it has to be then, it's 1.
1. But that will be
1 in the
4
past.
and 1 and 4, 5, 6. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Now I understand. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, give life to the word, that's easier rather than sort of trying to just remember it. If it is a functional, it has to be an arahant. Then
Right.
what are the consciousnesses that can be experienced by a arahant with there being equanimity. So then it has to be everything which is 5th jhana plus.
Yes.
Right? So everything 5th jhana plus, and then of course that one that we find ourselves experiencing arahantship as well. Right?
Okay.
And why is it that we only take 1 out of the Lokottara rather than Magga and Pala? Why? What?
You can't experience the Magga more than once ever.
Correct. Thank you, Chamari. Because it is insinuating that this person has already attained. So he will never attain Arahant Magga again. Right? Arahant Magga again. To those of you who have your cameras off, I'm sorry that I'm not giving you much attention. It is just that it's easy to give the attention to people who have their cameras on. But, I'm sorry if you're feeling like I'm ignoring you. I'm really not. All right, let's move on. All right, thank you, Chamari. Now, okay, for worldlings and trainees, right? For worldlings and trainees, absorption occurs following a three-rooted wholesome sense-sphere consciousness, right? For those free from lust, example, arhants, absorption follows a three-rooted sense-sphere functional consciousness. Is that clear and understood how that happens? There should be no doubt by now, right? But we will explain, we will talk about it. For worldlings and trainees, absorption occurs following a three-rooted wholesome sense-sphere consciousness. What is the three-rooted? Alobha, adosa, amoha. Non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, right? Non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. For those, can it ever be two-rooted? Can you ever? No. Why? Because you don't mindlessly stumble upon jhana. You have to want it again. Sort of qualifying the point we made first again is the fact that there must be, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know where you're going. It has to be fueled by wisdom, without which dhyana is not possible. Right? Dhyana is not possible without which. Right? So again, qualifying the same point that we made, right? For worldlings and trainees, absorption always occurs following a three-rooted wholesome sense-sphere consciousness, right? Just for the sake of revision, how many three-rooted wholesome consciousnesses are there? Noeli, would you like to do that? Or someone?
47.
I mean, how did you get the 47, Noeli? We are not that smart. Please explain it to us.
I studied that yesterday. That's
Pushpa, are you hiding there? I saw your head go down like this. Would anyone like to give it a go? It's quite easy.
yeah, I can now, Bhante. Can I?
Okay, go ahead.
That's the 12 beautiful chittas with the knowledge, and 15 fine sublime. That's wholesome and functional. And then 12 fine materials, wholesome, functional, and 8 supramundane.
Okay. You went the whole extent. Okay. All right. Good. Moving on. Thank you, Noeli. Absorption follows the three-rooted sense sphere. For Arahants, absorption follows the three-rooted sense sphere functional consciousness. Right? Then now can someone else count how many functionals do we have in the whole compendium of 89, 100? No, let's do 121 consciousnesses. Who can do that for us, please? Chamarik, can you?
Okay, Bhante. So there will be 8 functionals in the wholesome beautiful. Then there will be 5 functionals in the fine material, and 4 in immaterial. So that would be 9 and 8, 17.
Yeah.
And then in supramundane, the long way, taking 40 chittas, it would be 40 plus 17, 57.
14 plus 17.
17 plus 40, 57.
17 plus 14. Okay. Is that 57?
40 and 17?
You got the first part right before the supramundane.
Because you said go the long way, 121.
Yes.
So there will, all of them would be functionals, wouldn't they?
Would it?
No.
Who can experience functionals?
Only the
Arahants. So 4, 5.
5.
So
5.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So how much is the total then?
17 and 5. 21.
18.
You were so confident earlier. I was like, oh my gosh, am I wrong?
22, Bhante. How 21? 20?
It's not 5 also. Okay, let's count.
Yeah.
Okay. When you take the 40, right? What are the consciousnesses that an Arahant can experience? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's forget about the 40. Go to the 8. What out of the 8, how many consciousness are there that is functional?
In the supramundane, there is 1.
1.
Yes.
That
89th one.
That is in the 89 one. Supramundane, there is 1, which is the Arahanta. Right?
Yeah.
So then take that line, right, into the 20. Right? So then that must increase by
where is the 20 coming from, Bhante?
It's 8 plus
40. I'm sorry, 40.
8 plus 5 plus.
If we take the 40, there would be 5 that an Arahant would experience. Jhana 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yes.
Yes.
And there be 4 before that, and 5 before that, and 8 before that.
Yes. Okay. So then,
So then
So then
21.
no?
No. So it's
8
10,
and 5, 13. 13
plus 4.
plus 4,
4.
19. 19.
10, 18, and for 22.
22.
Yes.
22.
22, Bhante.
consciousnesses.
It's
But the
8.
calculation error.
Yeah, because there's 18 the beautiful ones,
Yeah.
and there is 5 there in the fine material, and there's 4 there in the immaterial, and then there is another 5 here.
22.
Yeah.
22.
22. Yes. Yes.
Right? 20.
Sorry, I made a mistake.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Right? 22. 22 consciousness. Thank you, Chamari. Right? 22 consciousnesses. Moving on. Guide to 16, paragraph 16. Following wholesome consciousness accompanied by, so we are revisiting it, but we've done this without this sort of, part, but we'll go through it, right? Following wholesome consciousness accompanied by joy. When preliminary functions in absorption processes are performed by either of two wholesome sense sphere chittas accompanied by joy and knowledge, that is, in the case of worldlings or trainees, then there can arise 32 chittas as javanas in absorption. 32 chittas in javana as javanas in absorption. The sublime wholesome chittas of the first 4 jhanas, the sublime wholesome chittas of the first 4 jhanas, that those which are accompanied with happiness. The 4 path chittas at the level of any of the first 4 jhanas, and the lower 3 fruition chittas at the same 4 levels, right? That is what we calculated, right? That is what we calculated. Do we need to go into detail and further explain? If anyone wants to, we will. Anyone? Pushpa, are you all right? Yeah, okay. Moving on. After wholesome consciousness accompanied by equanimity. When the preliminary functions are performed by either of the 2 wholesome sense sphere chittas accompanied by equanimity and knowledge. Now the chittas which have equanimity and knowledge, right? Also, in the case of worldlings or trainees, then there can arise 12 absorption javanas. Then there can arise 12 absorption javanas. Also, in the case of worldlings or trainees, there can arise 12 absorption jhanas. The sublime wholesome chittas of the 5th jhana and the 4 immaterial jhanas, right? Meaning those who have, now this is talking about those who are worldlings or trainees, right? Worldlings or trainees. Can someone explain to everyone who a trainee is, please? Who is a trainee?
Someone who has attained stream entry, once returner and non-returner.
Non-returner. So anyone who is training for arahanthood but still not attained arahanthood, right? So specifically those who have started achieving or attaining, right? However, not has reached arahanthood. Okay. So that's a training. Moving on. Okay. Trainees, then there can arise 12 absorption javanas, right? 12 absorption javanas, the sublime wholesome chittas of the 5th jhana and the 4 immaterial jhanas, right? The 4 path chittas at the level of the 5th jhana. Now, I mean, you understand that when we go through these points of Abhidhamma, it is clear to us through logic of the Abhidhamma taught by the Buddha that that we often, or in most cases, we speak about enlightenment or that process of enlightenment through that scope of jhana, absorption, right? Through that scope of jhana. So that mental training, that mental training is quite important, right? To add on to what we spoke about on Saturday, Sunday, that mental training of focus is very important. And remember, without that, without which one does not or is not able to cultivate that sort of reason, those reasons or those sort of fundamentals necessary for the attainment of jhana, for the attainment of nibbana at any level or case, right? Let it be stream entry, once returner, non-returner, or arahanthood, it is not possible, right? Why? Not because of this infatuation with jhana, because of the hindrances, right? Because of the hindrances. There is one notion found within there is one part found within the Tipitaka which explains what is sila, right? Now, this is one definition. There are many definitions of sila found in the Tripitaka. One definition is sila is that which leads to the development of guna, qualities, right? That is one definition, right? Now, which is to say, a person, so it's sila samadhi panya, isn't it? We know that, right? It's sila samadhi panya. If a person is not established or does not have this aspect of morality in one's life, right? Meditation or anything which follows in that path is not open or possible to such a person, right? Is not open to such a person. Nibbana is as far away from that person as the sun would be, right? Because it is not an opportunity which is open to that person's mind, not because God doesn't give it to you, or the Buddha is not giving, not because of anything like that. You are unable to see and operate in that way through mind, because your hindrances are such that we kind of delude and sort of we operate more on a narcissistic, with those narcissistic tendencies of ego, rather than that selflessness that sort of helps us towards the enlightenment processes, right? So guna through sila is very important. Sometimes we imagine, now then comes, what about those who are moral, who have good morals in their life? However, we know, or we find that these people are sometimes, they are not the most sort of compassionate. Such people are also not able to attain, right? Such people are also unable to attain, right? How do we know that, right? How could you say that, Bhante? I think you are wrong. Why is that? Because remember, when we spoke about the jhanas previously, we spoke about a person, a monk, who attains or achieves this sign, this nimitta. Remember, we spoke about the monk who sits at a location with the kasina, with the object, and again and again and again and again, with great difficulty, with a great amount of energy, the monk finally is able to advert and get this sort of what we call the attained sign, where now when one closes one's eyes, one can see that sign that one had physically. Remember that, right? Then it is mentioned in the Vishuddhimagga, such a monk should then walk away from where the meditation sign is and go to a faraway place. Why? Because or else the monk will grow lackadaisical and will not value that which one has now arduously attained, right? One has, with great amount of energy, one has acquired this nimitta. Now, if the nimitta is there, the monk might think, the nimitta is right here, so even if I lose it, it's okay, I can get it back because I have already got it once. To avoid that, it is said you must go to a distant place and meditate separately away from this sign, right? Now the monk has, with great effort, right, and he's also walking away from the nimitta to sort of cultivate his meditation, even make it even stronger. And then on the way, it says, or rather the book says, there comes a place where, someone, a passerby or a person who's walking by, asks for directions, right? Asks for directions. Now, when that happens, it is said that if the monk does not give directions, if the monk ignores the person just because, for no other reason, but just because the monk values the nimitta more, so he ignores this person and walks away, there the monk incurs an offense of wrongdoing, dukkhata. That is one of the offenses which is mentioned. Dukkhata means that which is wrong, right? That which is wrong. Now, what does that say about the practice? That's a very beautiful part, right? What does it say, right? It further explains. Now, I'm not going to say what it says. I'm going to repeat what is in the book, right? Which I truly believe wholeheartedly, which is this. The Buddha says, to a monk, to a person who practices arduously, but does not develop the compassion and qualities, the power and the jhana that one experiences is short-lived. He might have jhana, but it will sort of dwindle away or crumble quite easily. But for one who develops jhana with compassionate heart, for that person with those qualities in mind, for that kind of a person, the jhana is as solid as a well-made wall would be. Right? Through the ages, a wall which is built properly, the foundation which is built properly, it will stay, it will stick, it will not crumble. Right? Similarly, such a jhana produced by the results of both samadhi and that wisdom and that compassion-based wisdom, that will last longer. That is what the Buddha says. In a similar way, in the teachings, we know that guna is very important. Without guna, one will never achieve and attain to enlightenment. Right? So that person that you're annoyed with, that person that you gossip about, that person that you like to talk behind the back, that person that you like to sort of, do all of those things too, right? It is when the Buddha says don't do it, it is not really about that person. It is about you, right? It is really about you, because you are taking away the possibility of your purification just because you choose to do wrong to another person, right? Or you choose or you think that your actions are standardized, which gives rise to that which is unwholesome, right? That which is unwholesome, right? And we often don't think that we can do this without testing ourselves as well. Without testing ourselves as well. The thing is, we are very compassionate. We have a lot of metta at heart, but when it comes to really enacting upon that metta, we have nothing, right? We have nothing. When it comes to really doing something, when it comes to putting your money where your mouth is, you have nothing. You rather put it off on, oh, I'm avoiding a problem, or I'm avoiding something that I don't want to face, right? Things like that, those things have been put into the practice wholly because those are that which polishes up, which polishes your practice up, right? Because mentally it is very easy to sort of act and be sort of all holy and profound. But when it comes to the real deal, that's where we struggle, right? That's where we struggle. So moving on, right? Moving on. So we find that we do need aspects of samadhi, right? We do need aspects of samadhi. So if anyone tells you we don't need to practice jhanas, we can, you can point this. Look at page number 170 in the Abhidhamma Sangha. You can just say that, you see. Then they will say, oh, the Abhidhamma is apparently not the Buddha's teaching. I will give you some sutras then. Right. So this is actually that we sort of says we don't find it is, that's as I mentioned in the first chapter, the 8 that we find separately is to sort of is just for the sake of sort of denomination of that class. But really what we truly work with in practice is a 40, not the 8, right? Not the 80. It is really the 40 that often arises, right? Because without that power of samadhi, without that mental energy, right, it is very difficult for us to attain to that sort of state, right? So moving on. Okay. Any questions regarding what we have just completed, those two paragraphs that we have completed, or can we move on to after functionals accompanied by joy?
Just a quick question, Bhante.
Yes,
Can you just say what the Pali word for guna is?
Guna is guna.
In Pali as well. Oh, I see. Okay. Guna. Thanks.
Guna is Pali,
Thank you.
right? Guna is Pali. And also something that I wanted to actually mention on Saturday and Sunday, did you know that the word Shraddha is one of the least used words in the canon? It is very countable, the amount of times the word Shraddha is used. It is actually countable within your, within your hand. It is one of the least used words when it comes to the practice, right? So really this Shraddha that we often develop, what hints or what, and I read a couple of sort of articles by Jack Cornfield, by Piathan, by a couple of venerables as well, Bhikkhu Bodhi as well, which all have the idea that Shraddha should really not be about or rooted in sort of piety towards a sense of holiness. Shraddha should really be towards logic and reasoning found within the Dhamma. Right? So really, I mean, then it takes, I think we can sort of relate to that at a greater level because we come from a culture that has, that we do sort of display our Shraddha a lot. It wholly has to come down to logic and reasoning. The Shraddha which we have is really through the understanding of Dhamma, nothing else. Anything else is Silapata Paramasa. Because now, I mean, just imagine, I would say, what is the purpose? Okay, I respect the Buddha, but I don't know anything in the Dhamma. I respect the Buddha. I'm so devoted and respected towards the Buddha. However, I have no idea what the Dhamma is, right? Then the idea of that respect comes out of something which has been grasped through culture, traditions, which would then behave or become something of a hindrance because of the attachment base. Not something which helps in the process of enlightenment, right? Which is quite pragmatic, I think. Don't you think so? I mean, it is, I think, hard to sort of really cope directly, but if you truly look at it, the whole purpose and reason when the Buddha uses the simile of the boat, which is used, or rather the canoe, isn't it, which is used to sort of cross from one part of the river to the other. Yes, Dave? The raft, the raft which is used from one part to only cross the river. And then the Buddha says, what kind of a person would carry the raft into, no one would carry the raft, you would leave it there. That gives us a thing, that gives us the notion or gives us the understanding that the Dhamma should also be sort of used for a purpose, not through enlightenment, and not only for enlightenment, for nothing else. Right? Only for enlightenment, for nothing else. That can be drawn parallels with, now for example, when it comes to the monastic code, it says, now a forest would have a lot of twigs and firewood and, all of these things, isn't it? Right? And then when there's a village nearby, it is often, the villagers would sometimes walk through the forest, which might be the monastery. And then, the villagers or the people might sort of pick up sticks or whatnot through the forest, through that part of the forest which belongs to the monastery. And when a monk passes by, the villagers ask, Bhante, is it all right if we take this? Right? Literally, the monk doesn't really care about it. right? I mean, it's just twigs and branches and leaves which are on the floor. But the Buddha says, even to that, you're not supposed to say yes, right? Even to that, it said, the Buddha says, don't say yes. Do not encourage it. Why? Because then the villagers start associating the monastery or the monks to get firewood or to get, you know what I mean? The relationship between the villagers will now change from associating the monks for attainment of enlightenment to associating the monks to get like firewood, pieces of cloth, leftovers, all of these things, which the Buddha says, no. The relationship between the monk and the laity should be maintained to be wholly for Nibbana, because or else the laity are going to suffer. Why? Because there is going to be no one else who has the ability to teach them the path towards Nibbana. Right? So you see, it all focuses down to Nibbana. Even the Dhamma, you use it for Nibbana and you do not for anything else. Right? All right, moving on. After functionals accompanied by joy, etc. Following the two functional sense sphere chittas accompanied by joy and knowledge. That is, in case of arahants only. There arise 8 jhavanas in absorption, right? 8 jhavanas in absorption, the sublime functional jhavanas of the first 4 jhanas and the fruition of arhat at the level of the first 4 jhavanas, right? At the level of the first 4 jhavanas. Understood? Right? So the arahanthood that can be achieved through the first 4 jhavanas and the first 4 jhavana chittas, functional jhavana chittas in the first 4 up until the joy is got rid of. All of those chittas. So 4 there in the Rupa Vachara and 4 in the Lokottara, supramundane. Got it? Lovely. Any questions? Okay. After functionals accompanied by equanimity. Following the two functional sense sphere chittas accompanied by equanimity and knowledge, there arise 6 jhavanas in absorption. 5 in sublime. Remember why 5 in sublime? 5 in sublime because of equanimity, right? Because of equanimity, and then arahant. Hood, the 5th jhana of arahanthood, right? That is in Lokottara. This map should be in your mind. If you do not have it in your mind, please ask yourself, have I revised? Right? Have I revised? Right? I know that some of you like to say, okay, it is, people like Damsiri Mala, Dil, who actually get the class. And I know that you like to brag about that, but really, Damsiri Mala, Dil, and these people who get it because they have revised, right? Because they have revised. So you have to make your own notes. And I can see a lot of you coming up, that's really good. I'm really happy. But remember, this can't be done by me opening your mouth and spoon feeding you. It is not something like that, right? You have to do your own research. You have to revise, right? You have to read it. You have to go back, right? Or else it's just not going to be possible, right? It's just not going to be possible. You have to revise. You have to listen, and then you might complain, oh, we don't have time. Just stop calling people and just focus on your studies. You'll have time then. Stop all the gossiping phone calls and just focus on Abhidhamma. You will have time. And then you will have time, right? You can do it. Don't worry about it, right? Just you have to revise, or else it's just not going to happen. However good the teacher is, or however it's not going to matter, you're not going to be able to grasp it. You have to really revise and make your own charts and notes. That's important, right? So let's move on, the last part. For worldlings and trainees, etc. In the case of worldlings and trainees who have attained the 3 lower parts and fruits after any of the 4 wholesome sense sphere jhanas accompanied by knowledge, there arises one of the 44 absorption jhanas described above. Right? After the 4 functional sense sphere jhanas accompanied by knowledge, there arises to the Arahant one of the above 14 absorption jhanas. Right? Let's revisit that again. For worldlings and trainees, etc. In the case of worldlings and trainees who have attained the 3 lower paths and fruits, after any of the 4 wholesome sense sphere jhanas accompanied by knowledge, there arise one of the 44 absorption jhanas described above, right? That is 32 plus 12, 44. After, remember we calculated the 44, right? After the 4 functional sense sphere jhanas accompanied by knowledge, there arises to the Arahant one of the above 14 absorption jhanas. 14 absorption jhanas, right? 14 absorption jhanas, that is those that can arise with knowledge to the Arahant. To the Arahant, right? Okay. 8, 12. Shall we start on this section next week then? It's 8:12. Yeah, we'll start on this section next week. Right? So any questions that anyone might have? Actually, we have 15 minutes more. Shall we just go ahead? Yeah? Is it okay? Shall we go ahead? Okay. Yeah. Okay. The procedure of registration. Here, under all circumstances, when an object is desirable, the 5-fold sense of consciousness.
Undesirable.
I'm sorry. Okay. When an object is undesirable, the 5-fold sense sphere consciousness, reception, investigation, and registration that arise are unwholesome resultants. Right? Are unwholesome resultants. When desirable, they are wholesome resultants. If the object is extremely desirable, investigation and registration are accompanied by joy. Investigation and registration are accompanied by joy. Right? We are going to talk about that. In this connection too, at the end of functional jhavanas accompanied by joy, in this connection too, at the end of functional jhavanas accompanied by joy, there arise registration mind moments also accompanied by joy. There arise registration mind moments also accompanied by joy. At the end of functional jhavanas accompanied by equanimity, the registration mind moments are also accompanied by equanimity. Right? The registration mind moments are also accompanied by equanimity. Okay. Guide to para 17. Right? Guide to para 17, which explains what we have just gone through. Right? When an object is desirable, etc. Sense objects are distinguished into 3 classes: the undesirable, anitta; the moderately desirable, itta, also called itta majjattatha, desirable neutral; and the extremely desirable, ati itta. While the desirable object is thus subdivided into two, all undesirable objects are comprised within a single class called simply the undesirable, right? While the desirable object is thus subdivided into two, the undesirable objects are comprised within a single class called the simply undesirable, right? According to the Abhidhamma philosophy, this distinction in the quality of objects pertains to the intrinsic nature of the object itself, pertains to the intrinsic nature of the object itself, right? It is not a variable determined by the individual temperament and preferences of the experiencer, right? Now this refers to, I think, when we spoke about ahetuka, we spoke about this, right? For example, let us take something like, okay, spicy food, for example. You might like spicy food, you might, no, let's take a better example. Feces, right? Feces to a dog, right? I don't know whether all dogs, I don't know, but I'm guessing, to a dog might be desirable. To humans, it is undesirable. However, regardless of whether it's a human cognizing or dog cognizing, in both instances and cases, it will be an undesirable object. This is due to its intrinsic quality, not due to the preferences or the temperaments of that person who cognizes the object, right? Of that person who cognizes the object. Where does this then play a part? Why does it matter? One may ask, why does it matter? It matters when trying to understand whether the result of that is then a result of that which is wholesome or unwholesome, or is a resultant of wholesome or unwholesome. I'm sorry, either whether it is a resultant of wholesome or unwholesome. Let's go on. I hope that is clear. If not, please unmute your mic and ask anything you like. The Samoha Vinodani, the comment.
Can you probably explain, well, say, if you consider feces, yeah, it has got intrinsic properties, like it's undesirable, even for us, and for dog also undesirable. But there's a reason why it becomes desirable for dogs. It's something called vipallasa. Chitta vipallasa. Can you explain that one?
Yeah, we are coming to it. No?
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Sanya vipallasa is right there, I see.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. The commentary to the Vibhanga contends that when a person considers a desirable object to be undesirable, or an undesirable object to be desirable, he does so due to perversion of perception. Sanya vipallasa. Perversion of perception. Right? Perversion of perception. Actually, one of the books that you must try to get is Lady Seado's. There's a red color book. Let me try to Google it. I will send it on the WhatsApp group, right? It's not for sale though. I will try to get you a couple of books from Burma. I'll try to get a box of books from Burma, but it's not for sale, so you can't get it easily. But there is a book which was translated, which actually contains a lot of these parts, which helps in our meditation. So it has the Manyana, the Vipallasas, like it's a compendium of all of these written by Lady Seado, right? And it has been translated, right? I will put the frame of the book on the WhatsApp group. So, Sanya Vipallasa. The object itself, however, remains inherently desirable or undesirable, independently of the perceiver's personal preferences. Okay. Sanya Vipallasa, Sanya Chitta Vipallasa, Sanya Vipallasa, Ditti Vipallasa. There are 3 types of perversions, right? Sanya, Chitta, Ditti, right? These perversions of mind, remember, I told you during the meditation class, I'm sorry if some of you did not attend the meditation, but I told you of how a person who might, let's take a person like a murderer or a psychopath, right? Who's killed people and, you know, who is sort of, you know, absolutely sort of, you know, dreaded by society, right? However, a person like that person's mother would still go see the person, would, you know, in a similar way, a person who is in love with this person, regardless of sometimes the person's intrinsic qualities, one chooses to or is able to continue to love this person, blurring out all the other sort of red flags, if we may call it that, right? That is said to be something, that is how similarly Vipallasa works, right? It is a delusionary state of mind, right? It is a delusionary state of mind created by the hindrances. Moreover, it is actually, if we go beyond the hindrances, it is directly related to, of course, the anusayas, right? It is related to the anusayas. Now, these vipallasas, what it makes. Now, for example, when we say, okay, we meditate, however, when it comes to wishing wholeheartedly, I truly want to achieve Nibbana at this very point, sometimes a lot of people are unable to make that decision, right? Unable to wholeheartedly make that determination, right? We often feel, oh, if I had one more day to settle my affairs, right? If I had one more year, you know, maybe after a year, I'll be ready for enlightenment. After a year, so you are waitlisted, you see. You waitlist yourself in, you know, that is done by Vipallasa, right? That is done by Vipallasa. It is a way that the mind deludes itself, right? Deludes itself because of either the tanha, ditthimana. It is really the anusayas which do that, right? Which keeps you stuck into samsara, right? So that vipallasa, so sanya vipallasa, chitta vipallasa, and ditti vipallasa. Ditti vipallasa is that perversion of mind which is brought about specifically by the patterns of thought that you choose to be with, or rather you see as correct and true. Capitalism, for example, right? Those patterns of thought which goes against kamma, so to be specific, kamma vipaka, kamma vipaka, rebirth, life, rebirth, Parijasamapada, 4 noble truths, 8-fold noble path, and conditional relations. So ditthis which persuade you against these 8 types of dhammas are referred to as ditti vipallasa, right? Ditti vipallasa. That part of your mind where we perceive something which is clearly seen as suffering, but we perceive it as something which is good and we need it. That is also something which is called vipallasa, right? Then sanya vipallasa. Sanya vipallasa is now the way that you perceive an object itself is deluded, right? When something is clearly in the nature of experience itself, you take it in a way that is delusionary, right? Where it is perverted or made your way of perception itself deluded. For example, now now what has been taken here is in the perception of an object, which is usually what sanya does, perceive an object. That perceiving of object, an object which is which should be that which is undesirable, is taken as something which is desirable. Right? That sanya process is deluded because of the hindrances. Right? Because of the hindrances. Then we have chitta vipallasa. Chitta vipallasa refers to the states of mind. The states of mind, now quite different, or rather different to both ditti and sanya, in the way where now the perceiving of one's consciousness is deluded. Now, clearly, you attack that person out of hate. However, you choose to believe and convince yourself that you did it completely out of love. Or you scolded your friend out of jealousy. However, you choose to believe that you were just being a loyal friend. You know what I mean? Like the masquerading factors. However, you choose to believe in an entirely different consciousness, while it is clear that it was the other way. Right? That delusion that happens with regards to one's consciousnesses that arise. Right? That, yes, Miri?
Sorry, Bhante, I just wondered, those like Subha Vipallasa, Sukha Vipallasa, Nitya Vipallasa, does that come under the Chitta Vipallasas or not?
There is a school of thought for that, Mary. Some people say Sukha, Nitya and that Vipallasa does not exist. Right? I mean, meaning,
okay.
Right? There is a school of thought which says that those three types of vipallasa do not exist, and that these are the three types of vipallasa which does exist, and then there are these 6 types of vipallasa as well. But usually the 3 vipallasas that we find is specifically these 3.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
I didn't know that.
However, what I will try to do is I will try to find the references for that. I don't have it. I will try to find the references for that, Miri. Sukha, Nitya, and what's the other one? Miri.
It's basically Subha, Nitya, and Sukha Vipallasa.
Yeah. So, okay. So those which goes against that which is that vipallasa, Miri, that is found in when explaining the situation of the world before the Bodhisattva became the Buddha. That is where those 3 vipallasas are found. It is said, before the arising of a Buddha, the deluded or the perverted state that the world is in these 3. And that is what the Buddha turns around, it is said. That is where we get those 3 types of vipallasa from.
I see, because it was related to the Satipatthana that I read about it, where it said about the Kayanuspasana converts it, you get a Subha Vipallasa, you think that it's a positive thing, and then it's not really. And
the Subha, that is specifically relating, that part specifically relates to Anicca Dukkha Anatma, how Anicca Dukkha Anatma arose. Right? Meaning breaking away from the cause of the Anusaya, right, which relates to the objects as Subha, Nitya and Atma, and turning it into Anicca Subha Anatma. Anicca Dukkha Anatma.
Okay, thank
you. However, so you read it in the Satipatthana Sutta. Okay.
Yeah, when I was reading something about it,
Okay. These 3 that we find here, Miri, is directly referring to, again, the path of practice. The Subha, Nitya, the Subha, Sukha and the Nitya is more referring to that Anicca, how the Anicca Dukkha Anatma was taught by the Buddha. Right? That is what I have come across. Right?
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Let me revisit that, Miri.
Okay,
right?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So to answer your question, Miri, it is not related to this anyways. Right? It is not related to this because, why is it not related to this? Because that is specifically pointing to the wrong, which was, or the wrong way of cognition, which was the plank of the world, or the foundation of thinking in the world with the Buddha converter, which allows for vipassana to arise. The base of vipassana is anicca dukkha anatma, isn't it? That was possible because that conversion of thought happened. That is that. Here, this is referring to the path of practice specifically. Right? Meaning the hindrances, or rather the way the hindrances happen in the mind, which deludes the conscious process or the cognition process. Right? So really it is referring to what one must try to practice or get rid of through practice, which allows for the proper understanding to arise. Okay, moving on. The object, okay, it's 8:30. So it's 8:30. So we will continue next week.
Bhante,
Yes, Pushpa.
the last one, chitta vipallasa.
Yeah.
Is that similar to denial? Is it denial?
No, it is not. Because denial would mean that you know what is true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would mean that at one point in your mind, you know it is true, or what you're doing is wrong, or the way that you're thinking is wrong. You know, in vipallasa, you do not know it.
Right.
It is a complete state of delusion. Remember, anywhere where the word within the practice or the Tipitaka with regards relating to practice in the spots of Tipitaka, where the word delusion is used, you do not know what the truth is. You are deluded. You know? So it is not like you know what the truth is, but you're trying to sort of, turn your attention to something else. It's not like that. You do not know. Right? Why? Because you are deluded. Does it mean that you do not have the potential, or you don't have the potential to know? No, you do have the potential to know. However, you are deluded. The example is a pot of muddy water where you can't see the bottom. But does that mean that the bottom is not there? No, the bottom is there. However, you can't see it. Yeah? Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Padma.
I mean, this is from the previous class about the absorption jhana process that we did, the attainment of path and fruit. Now the path is only once, isn't it? So once the path is attained, once you become an arahant, then does the chitta vritti change?
No.
This absorption process, does it change? Because the path will be taken off from that, isn't it?
Well,
how does it work?
I mean, yes. In that case, of course, the path is not there. The magga chitta is not there. But the fruit will arise.
Yeah, but you don't need that chittas before that too, isn't it? Because you have already done the gotrabu and gone the level to a level higher, isn't it? I mean, I was just thinking about it, but I couldn't.
So we remember we had the keen person and the average person.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
That is there. However, remember that from when it comes to samapatti or attaining of phala, fruits, experiencing of the fruits, remember that even as an arahant, they experience, the Buddha says, the highest of fruit, the highest of pleasures amongst those that can be experienced by enlightened being is none other than the phala samapatti.
Okay.
Phala samapatti, for those who do not know the word, phala is fruit, samapatti is attaining to that which is the fruit, right? So the absorption, which is also an absorption in a way, right? This phala samapatti is the greatest of fruits, or greatest experience of happiness known to mankind, right? When the Buddha says that, then we must understand, meaning for the Buddha, when he is not in phala samapatti and the state where he is in phala samapatti.
Okay.
You know what I mean? there is a clear difference of experience. Even for a Buddha, with a person with keen intellect, as the Buddha does, even for him, there is a shift that happens, enabling that experience to be higher than the normal state of Buddhahood that he lives in.
Okay, right, yeah.
You know, that he lives in. For example, the story about the Ananda Bodhi, right? Where Venerable Ananda invites, or the Buddha goes and sort of attains to, where Venerable Ananda says, Bhante Bhagava, he invites the Buddha and says, please attain to all the attainments that you attained at the Mahabodhi here and make this place, you know, worth veneration, right? Then the Buddha says, Ananda, there is no other place in this whole planet that I see that is worthy of those attainments, but I will attain to all the attainments that I think and deem as worthy for this place, right? And he attains to that place and makes that place. Now, what does that again say? Now the Buddha himself is worthy of veneration of gods, Brahmas, humans alike. However, him attaining to those states of samapatti says that that state of normal Buddhahood, normal, I'm saying normal Buddhahood, I think you understand what I mean, that state of just being the Buddha and the state of being, or within that state of samapatti, are different. Or rather, the state of samapatti is rather much more vibrationally great and profound, much, much more profound. Right? So in that way, I would say it is then should be taken as there is a preparation, or there is a climb to that state which allows that state to be that much profound and high. Right? So no, Padma, Magga, yes, the Magga does not appear. However, the rest does.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The rest does, because I think there has to be a shift of mind which makes it possible for the mind to experience and be at that high state.
Okay. Thank you.
Because if there is nothing, let's talk about, okay, if there is nothing, then the Buddha or even anyone with Arahanthood or whatnot should always be in a state of samapatti only. You know, he should be able to sort of go in and out of samapatti anytime that he wants to. Right? Which of course they can do, but usually they do it while sitting, while in meditation. You know, they're not like sort of, you know, walking in samapatti.
Oh, I see. Right.
You know what I mean? You understand what I mean, no?
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I said, okay, you understand what I mean, right? It was like I didn't allow her to say no, but
anyway, it's late now, so anyway,
no.
Thank you. Anyway. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I did that unknowing. But okay, we'll talk about it more next time.
I think about it too. Yeah, thank you.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. And yes, so any questions that you have, we will sort of go through the next part next week. And take care. Good night. And enjoy the snow.
Take care.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.